One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my SEO career is not taking backlinks seriously. In my first couple of years, I was doing the same thing we all do, discovering that you can find these keywords, write great content, and then after a few months, some of those pages start to rank and make serious money. In today's video, I want to address the issue of niche relevant backlinks and whether you should be concerned around the overall topic of the website that you're building links from and just how important this is. Should you really stress over making sure every single backlink you build comes from a closely industry relevant website, or is that just unrealistic? You'll probably find you'll run out of prospects. Very few of those are actually going to get back to you, whereas your competitors may well be doing really well by using powerful, more generic lifestyle and news sites. So by the end of this video, you'll have a much better idea of some objective data we've found by going through individual search results and working out the exact ratios that are working for them of industry relevant niche sites versus more general sites. And in the background, I kept on hearing about backlinks, domain authority, domain rating, and how somehow I had to go out and get more of these links into my site in order to make it really established to compete with some of the bigger players out there who had been more established and gathering backlinks for years and years. But every time I looked into it, it just sounded complicated, expensive, and there was always the threat that I was going to do more harm than good. So instead I ended up obsessing over details that really didn't matter too much, going down a rabbit hole of trying to make my content absolutely perfect, trying to master topical authority, answer every keyword out there, even if it wasn't even in my funnel, all the time perfecting my on-page in the vain hope that I might actually be able to overtake some DR 50, 60 sites that were much more powerful than mine. I did that for about 2 years, and it was only then that I finally started experimenting with link building and was shocked by just how effective it was. And suddenly I didn't need to wait for pages to rank anymore. I could just get them ranking. And I didn't have to fear being outranked by more authoritative pages, because I knew if there was a DR 20 or 30 on that particular search result for that keyword, then I could get my DR up into the 20s and 30s with this repeatable process. So I didn't have to fear anymore. I didn't have to stress over constantly perfecting and refining my content. I knew that all I had to do was make sure the content was good enough and then slam it with links in order to get it ranking. And this is the trap I see so many business owners get into, where they're so fearful of backlinks, they want to literally get into every possible option before they actually confront the issue of building some links. And the fact is you just can't get away from it. It doesn't matter how good your content is, how good your topical authority is, or whether you just publish loads of more low competition content, you're never going to rank for those really transactional high value terms. Whereas quite often just a small amount of link building can make all the difference. Now that's not the case with this particular client. For this client, we've been building them 30 backlinks per month since January. So before they started with us, they were at about 8,000 visitors a month and $14,000 a month in traffic value. Remember, traffic value is basically what that traffic would cost if you got it through paid Google ads rather than the organic. So it's a really good indicator of just how valuable your traffic is, how likely it is to convert. Otherwise, you see these amazing Ahrefs traffic graphs, but there's no value there because they're just targeting low competition info content. Whereas this high CPC value implies that there is actually some bottom of funnel transactional traffic for those keywords. So 2nd of January, $14,000 in traffic value, 8,000 visitors per month, and 367 referring domains. And then as they started with us over time, you can see all of those metrics started to improve. So 1st of May, 541 referring domains, 15,000 organic traffic, and a value of $25,000 per month. And then if we extend that right the way up to August and September, then we have 30,000 organic visitors from 853 referring domains and a traffic value of $54,000 every month. So this is the real estate play with SEO, where it might seem like a lot of money out before you start making money, but when you bring it into terms of traffic value, you realize you can get to a point where your traffic value is worth $20, $30, or even in this case, $50,000 per month because you've done the SEO, you've done the link building, you've claimed that real estate, and now you can reap the rewards of that inbound organic traffic for free. So you may well spend $5,000 to $10,000 per month on the SEO, but it could get you to a point where you're then making $50,000 a month in value or even more. And that's going to keep going. The SEO might only take 6 months to a year to actually get that real estate as it did in this case. But then there's a good chance you should be able to reap the rewards of that for years and years. I don't think any AI search or AI overviews, anything like that, any changes with Google are going to change the fact that search engines want to connect people with the products they're searching for. And AI search is going to do that in a very similar way to Google's current algorithm just because it works, and it has worked for a long time. Now, if you want us to try and get similar results for you, then go to seojesus.com/apply, or I'll leave a link below. There's full details about our range of services here, not just link building, but content, consulting, keyword research, and technicals as well. You can see a range of our other case studies here to prove this wasn't just a fluke, and these are using actual Search Console screenshots as well, not just Ahrefs graphs. A few testimonials there, and the application form at the bottom. We do get quite busy because we want to stay small and focus on much more of a boutique service for a smaller number of clients. But fill in the application form there, we'll see if you're a fit, and that will reserve your place in the queue. Now, a question I often get asked about link building is about niche relevance. Now, there's lots of myths and speculation out there in terms of the kinds of backlinks you should be building, normally based on the speculation from backlink providers, kind of like myself, where of course they want to force their own agenda that their backlinks are the best. But in terms of finding objective truth, I find the best thing is to look at correlation, because ultimately if you've got the right tools, then you've got a lot of resources available to you to be able to reverse engineer exactly what's working now. And I think that's a huge amount of the overall SEO game. So to help with this, I've built a custom GPT tool so that we can go and investigate this idea of niche relevant backlinks. So people hear this term niche relevant backlinks and they get the idea that every single backlink they build needs to be from a very closely related website. Now, on one hand, that makes sense, except you get very quickly into this territory where you're going to be asking your competitors for a link, or you're simply going to be reaching out to a lot of websites that just aren't going to link to you. The whole link building game has got a lot harder post helpful content update, now that a lot of really good content websites have had their traffic completely diminished. And so now to get seriously powerful backlinks, you've often got to reach out to actual businesses that are not going to be willing to take the time out to actually link to you. So let's not forget that domain relevance is just one part of the overall puzzle. The most important part of niche relevance is actually the contextual relevance of the page the link is actually on. If you look at the recent Google leak, you can see various mentions about the words and entities surrounding the link and the anchor text of the link itself that dictates the power of that actual link. So as long as you're placing links on a niche relevant page, then you're already halfway there. Because the fact is, if you filter it down so you're only looking at closely industry relevant websites, and you have to bear in mind all these other factors like the power of the domain, its authority, how much traffic it's getting, how many other websites it's linking out to, is it up to anything dodgy, and is it actually open to negotiation to link to you? You can very quickly run out of links if you're too strict with it. But the fact is, as we've seen, you need to build links in order to grow. If you don't build links, you're going to get stuck. So I very much agree that done is better than perfect. Rather than going for the 10 out of 10 link, of which there might be only 5 in the world, try and aim for the 7 or the 8 out of 10 link, where it might not be this perfect link you want, but it is still a powerful link that's going to bring you progress. But with this idea of niche relevance, people do get very hung up on the idea that every website needs to be industry relevant, and it's just not the case. And let me demonstrate that to you using my tool. So like I say, most of SEO is all about correlation and reverse engineering what's working now. So if we take a search like THC gummies, we've got a lot of clients in the cannabis niche. This should be quite an interesting one. And I encourage you to do this for your particular niche because different search results can behave very differently. Now, obviously we have top performing results here. And so this is basically our cheat code, our recipe of what we want to do in order to get to this place at the top of Google. So if I just pick one of these, preferably a lower DR one that we can reasonably expect to compete with. If you see, for instance, Forbes here and you've got a massive D80 site, then there's a good chance they're just there through their sheer domain rating and authority, rather than having been smart about it. So whenever you're doing this kind of analysis, you want to try and find the slightly less powerful, the newer brands that have probably been a bit smarter with their strategy in order to get that really good result. So if we take Texas Original, we can open up the backlinks of the actual page, and I encourage you to do this for the page and the overall domain. So we've got 18 backlinks pointing at the actual page. And already you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on, that we're seeing a lot of news sites and not really that many cannabis websites. So this has already proven my point. Look at any backlink profile in the world and you'll generally find that it's mostly much more general and lifestyle websites rather than industry specific websites. Now, I was really belligerent about this for a long time until an industry colleague sat me down and he said, would you rather have a link from this big news site that's a DR7 with lots of traffic, or from this tiny local dispensary that's only got a domain rating of 8 and gets 500 visitors a month? And when you start putting it in those terms, suddenly you realise that niche relevance isn't actually as big a factor as you thought it was. But we're being objective today, we're not doing conjecture, so let's go through and get some actual data. So I want to take this up to the overall domain level to work out how many closely niche relevant backlinks that Texas Original has. Now I've got 80,000 here, And that's just going to break my tool. And a lot of that is going to be junk. So random aggregators, directory citations, things like that. So let's look at the links that are actually providing power. So let's filter it down to best links only. And that comes right down to 152 backlinks. This happens with just about every time I do this, that when you look at how many of the backlinks are actually providing power, it's really very small. So you might be intimidated when you see a competitor has got 200,000 backlinks, but then you filter it down like this, and they've only got... So with this filter, we're looking at minimum DR of 30, minimum traffic of 1,000, and a couple of other metrics like, is it do follow, is it in content? And what this basically means is you're getting the proper editorial links in articles rather than some random business directory or a bit of comment spam, something like that. So we've got 152 backlinks here, and we can see a mix, so docmj, so obviously a marijuana site there. We also want to make this one link per domain, so we've got 71 overall. So most of the power for this website is coming from 71 backlinks, and we can see a few of these are cannabis related. So let's export that, and then when you get the spreadsheet, just ignore the referring page title, come across to the referring page URL, and we'll copy all of these. And like I say, I'll leave a link below to this form, which will then send you through to the custom GPT. And now we simply drop in our list of links. So this is now going to analyze and tell us what the ratio is of niche relevant to non-niche relevant. So it's not going to be perfect, it will occasionally get it wrong slightly, but here we've got 17 backlinks out of the 65, so that's a 26% ratio. And then we have 51% news sites, 5% directories. Now we filtered out most of the directories because we put in that best links filter, so a lot of directories are no follow, various issues like that. So of the good quality directories, we've got 5%, so there's our breakdown there. So 26% niche relevant backlinks, and then 51% more general news sites, which do tend to be much more powerful. So this is exactly what I was expecting. You do still need some niche relevant backlinks, but this idea that every single link you build has to be perfectly niche relevant, and you should never build a link from a bigger website, a more general website, is just not true.